Who is in the mix for round 17 against Geelong? That is the burning question for today, Tigercast fans. And it's a very, very interesting week of selection ahead, I think, especially in light of obviously McKelty Lafau going down, which is such a shame. I mean, to have him come back after 400 odd days out to then do a calf is really disappointing. Hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. I think it's 4 to 6 weeks, I read somewhere. And Lynch, we obviously know, is going to be missing some type of football, yet to be determined on length. Although by the time this video comes out, maybe that's been decided. But that leaves some opportunities for players to come in. However, it does leave like a pretty big gaping hole up forward. So we obviously brought McKelty in to pair up Lynch to have another more mature body down there, which I've been screaming for weeks, to help bring the ball to ground, to compete in the air. Because as much as I love what Fall and Sims do, they just can't do it long enough at a high enough level, just because of their inexperience, their size. And they'll get there, they'll be completely fine. But it was the right move to make, and now we've lost both of those big bodies and we're back to square one and in possibly a worse situation. So I suppose that's the first discussion point. Who comes in to replace the key forwards? I'm not keen to put in Sims and or Armstrong to have, like, I don't want to have a three of Fall, Sims and Armstrong. I simply don't think we can do that. Yes, in 5 years' time, that's what we're going to see on a weekly basis, and it's going to be amazing. But especially against this week, against the Cats, you cannot throw the young kids to the wolves against Tom Stewart, against Blitzarves and Henry and players like that, who are just going to eat them up alive. We'll be lucky to kick a score if we were to do that. So we need to try and be a little bit more creative, and there's a couple of ways we can look at it, a couple of different options that we can maybe consider. We obviously saw Noah Bolter play forward a little bit in the Adelaide game because of all the things that happened. And I know a lot of people, history suggests they don't like seeing Bolter play forward. The reality is he hasn't been playing well as a defender recently, and he actually looked like he offered something up forward against the Crows. And I think even the people who most dislike that move would have to admit that. Flies for the ball, was able to take a couple of grabs, and he just makes the defenders worry. He actually causes some concern because he's a big physical presence, and that's what you need. Would you start Bolter forward straight away? Maybe, always a possibility. Or you could bring someone else in. I'm floating around Tyler Young as a possible candidate to come in. Now, it's a little bit of now hear me out as well, but Tyler Young actually kicked a couple of goals on the weekend in the VFL. One was 55 on the run, absolutely nailed it, and the other one was a set shot after getting a 50-metre penalty. And it was such a clinical and clean goal-kicking routine, it kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. So he's another mature-age body-size player that could play forward. I think, the more I think about it, I do think Tyler Young's the right player to come in, but I think he might then slot in down back and Noah Bolter might play up forward, because I think Bolter's a bit more aerially aggressive than what Tyler Young is. But then you at least know that you've got that flexibility within the game to move Tyler Young back there if you want to. Jacob Blight could move down there if you want to. And I know this isn't everyone's favourite solution, but the reality of it is, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to have to be ultra creative and find some stopgap forwards for the time being until we can get players back and reorganise. And it is going to mean defenders are going to have to play forward. Whether anyone likes it or not, that is what's going to have to happen as a makeshift solution for the moment. Otherwise, we just simply won't score if we go with full youth. Jacob Bauer's another one whose name comes up too, who obviously plays as a forward. My only thing with Jacob Bauer is I don't know whether... I kind of feel like he's going to be very similar to Jonty Fall and Sims in the sense that I don't think he'll be able to compete for long enough, hard enough, and be physical enough to bring the ball to ground as much as we're going to need. I think he gets worked off the ball too easily. Yeah, he flies in packs for marks and hasn't really stuck one yet, but he has a crack. I don't know if that's the type that we need in at this point in time. So I'm kind of more inclined to lean elsewhere, but that's the first selection headache. James Trezise is another one who I think is knocking down the door for selection. He's kind of in the mix for this week. He's had a pretty good month of football. Last week was maybe a little bit of a lower game than what he would use, or the week before, sorry, but the game with 22 touches, 4 tackles was good. My only thing with Trezise is I don't quite know where to fit him in. We know he can play halfback and on the wing, but our backline already seems fairly well set. It's fairly structured. It's fairly locked in. So I feel like the wing's the only spot he can kind of take. And we've got Trainer on one wing who we're not going to remove because he can be utilised in defence as well. And Hugo Ralsmith is the other winger. Now, Hugo didn't have a bad game on the weekend against the Crows. He was probably in the top 12 or 13 players, or 12 or 11 players. So I don't really think he warrants an omission, but he's probably the player type that Trezise is competing with. So it kind of comes down to, do we think that Trezise could offer more than what Ralsmith is offering currently? I don't really know. I mean, he probably isn't as quick as Hugo. Is he a bit more polished and a better user of the ball? Yeah, I'd probably say he is. I just don't know what our options would be and how that would look. So he might end up spending another week in the VFL, unfortunately. Taj Houghton, I mean, he's one that I would love to see come in this week. And he's definitely in the mix, but we do know the club has categorically said they will play him in the VFL again this week, which I can completely understand. It won't be too long before he's into the senior side, make no doubt about it. Maurice Rioli Jr. is probably the other one that's worth talking about. 19 disposals, 3 marks, 8 tackles, 4 clearances, 1 goal. I'm pretty sure last week he had 7 tackles as well, and around a similar amount of number of disposals. So he's now sort of hitting that 15, 16 to 20 disposal mark on most weeks playing as a midfielder. And his tackle count's been good. His pressure's been good. He's been involved in the game for all 4 quarters as a midfielder. And I really do think he's found his position as a midfielder playing AFL or playing VFL football. Will it translate to AFL? Look, we won't know unless we try it. The problem is we don't try anything when it comes to the midfield. So we roll with the same 4 players week in, week out. So my issue would be, I would love to see Morris come in, but I don't think it can be as a small forward. I really don't think he'll make it as a small forward at either level. So only bring him in if we're going to play him in the midfield and give him midfield minutes, which I think, like, you maybe want to see another week or 2 of him doing well at this at the VFL, but I think we're almost at a point in time where we're craving to see something a bit different. We're wanting to see pace on the ball, and he's the guy who can give it to us. And at some stage, we've got to roll the dice and see if it works at AFL level. And we've said that about Ross. We've said that about McAuliffe. We've said it about Sonzi. And we've seen it in very, very small doses. But yeah, that would be my caveat. Morris plays if they're going to give him midfield time. If not, it's probably not worth it. Unless we think he's going to put out better output than Steely Green. Which he might do. I don't know. Sam Lawler is the other one who's going to come back in. He is well and truly in the mix and almost categorically confirmed to come back in and play. So he's going to come in. Who he comes in for, I'm not sure. I mean, he could be one of the players that comes in for Lynch or Lafau. So it could hypothetically look like Sonzi, Lawler in and Tyler Young in for Lynch and Lafau. Steely Green will be a bit of a nervous man, I think, with some of his games in recent times too. But we probably don't have that small forward, bar Maurice Rioli, if they wanted to do it, knocking at the door to take his spot. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts about his knocking on the door, who's in the mix for selection this week. What will be interesting though is next week, because the VFL for this week against Geelong, Josh Gibcus is back, which is amazing. Harry Armstrong is back, which is amazing. Taj Houghton gets his 3rd game and possibly the final stepping stone before an AFL debut, hopefully, if he performs well. So yeah, spots are starting to heat up. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. But let us know what you think in the comments below. Who else do you think's in the mix? What is your solution about our forward line? Who comes in? What creative ideas have you got to give us a makeshift forward line for the time being? And yeah, Thursday or Friday this week's team selection is going to be completely and utterly fascinating.